All right, guys. There's also a lot of requests for question 16 and 17 on homework one, and I think part of the reason for this is because it's a really an all-encompassing question, and I think you'll see that as we kind of move through really question 16, and we'll have this graph moving along with us, which will help us answer question 17. So the question concerns 4K televisions, and I think this is a pretty realistic question. I think it's something we see a lot of. We see the cost of production of 4K televisions going down, right? It's becoming cheaper and cheaper to produce these big screen 4K high definition televisions. But at the same time, consumers are watching more television programs on things other than televisions, like their iPhone, their iPad, any type of smart device. So we have these two things going on, and then the question becomes, what's going to happen to the price and then the quantity of 4K television sold, given that we're given these two pieces of information? All right, so again, you're kind of told these scenarios or these events, and then you're asked to assess the following claim. The price of 4K TVs are decreasing, but it's not clear whether the quantity of 4K televisions bought and sold have increased or decreased. So let's see if we can disentangle this. So the first thing you want to do, again, when you're thinking about a market, all right, just start with the simple supply and demand curve, okay? So we've got demand 1, right? We've got supply 1 right here. So we've got supply 1, and now our equilibrium point, we can go ahead and just denote price 1 and Q1, okay? So we've got E1 right here. So this is our starting point. So then we're going to say, okay, the cost of production went down. When the cost of production goes down, what exactly does this mean? This means that our supply is going to increase, right? Why does the supply increase? Because now it's cheaper to produce our goods than it was before. So then we're going to shift this supply curve to the right. So let's do this, and let's do this in a different color. Let's go ahead and do this in blue. Okay. All right, so we've shifted this supply curve to the right, and we can label that S2. All right. So if we just stop for a second and say, well, if we go from S1 to S2, if this is the only thing that happens, we're going to be at this point right here. All right. We're going to walk along this demand curve, all right, and we're going to end up at, we'll just call it E hat. We're not going to change anything right now. We're going to change demand. We're just going to say supply shifts to the right. This is pushing prices down. It's pushing the quantity up, okay? So that's our first shock. That's this cost of production going down. Now, I'm going to get those arrows out of here and just get us back to this E hat. That's kind of our stopping point, or halfway point, because we've got to figure out what happens when this these consumers start moving towards devices like iPhones and iPads to watch TV. Well, that's going to cause the demand for televisions to decrease, right? People aren't going to buy as many as they did before. This is going to shift our demand curve to the left, okay? So let's go ahead and shift demand to the left here. I'm going to do that in red. And the first demand curve I'm going to draw is pretty close to that original demand curve. So I'm going to call D2 just left of D1, okay? So now when we look at our new equilibrium, it's where these two colored lines cross, and we're here at Q2 and P2, right? So now we've got this small, relatively small demand shift. What happens? Well, when we have a small demand shift, our new equilibrium is at point E2, and we've got this reduction in prices and an increase in quantity. Why? Because we've got this small demand shift. It only goes from D1 to D2, but our supply shift, boy, that's pretty big. S1 to S2, that's a big jump. So now that push down in prices, that's going to happen because we have both supply increasing and demand decreasing, but quantity increases from the supply increase from S1 to S2. That outweighs the demand decrease from D1 to D2. Let's kind of see this a little bit more fully by looking at what happens if we have a big decrease in demand. So imagine that everybody stops buying televisions because everybody's watching TV on their smartphone. Now we've got this big decrease in our demand curve to right there. Okay, so now we'll say D3 is really far to the left. We'll go all the way out to here. Our new equilibrium, really low price, and now there's fewer televisions bought. Okay, so if we have a large demand shift, what happens overall? Well, prices are going to just go down even more, but now our overall quantity is going to go from E1 to E3. Q1 is going to go to Q3, so we're going to have a reduction in quantity. Okay, let's summarize all this. Why is this happening? Why do we have this ambiguity about whether quantity goes up or down? Well, when we have a supply increase, what is this doing? A supply increase is going to cause our prices to fall and that equilibrium quantity to go up. Okay, so prices are going down, quantity is going up. When we have a demand decrease, what's that going to do? That's going to drive prices down, but that quantity overall that's bought and sold is also going to go down. So if we take these two things together, right, and kind of say we got a supply increase plus a demand decrease, we're going to have a big decrease in prices. What's going to happen to quantity? Well, it's unclear because we have quantity going up because of supply, and we have quantity going down because of demand. So if you have a small demand shift relative to supply, we're going to see quantity go up. If we have a big decrease in demand relative to supply, we'll see quantity go down. So hopefully you can take this question right here, be able to answer 16, and then parlay it into an answer for 17, which asks you about where do we start on the graph and where do we end. So hopefully this clears some things up, and we'll see you guys in the next question.